You're live.
What's up, everybody? Are
Mhm.
we live? Are we live?
Live.
Sorry, I didn't know.
We
I
don't
didn't
have.
know who was going to take.
We
What is up, everybody? As Shawn so eloquently puts it every week, we are live with Live to Roll, doing things a little different this week. Shawnee boy, I think, is getting a little medical thing this morning.
yeah. Looks like.
Lisa, she said everything went well, so that's good to hear. Shout out, Shawn. I had to put under a little anesthesia for a little routine test. But still, glad to know that he's on his way home and doing well. So shout out. And yeah, it's my favorite kind of show. The T Fizzle Bobby Rohan takeover show, baby.
I don't think.
There's
Have you and I done a show by
Yeah,
ourselves?
we did. We did when Shawn was in Sweden.
Okay, that's right. Okay, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. But in any event, I'm Tom Conaway, C6B quadriplegic from California, the North and the South. Bobby, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'm from the South here in Southern California. You all welcome back now, and I'm Bobby Rohan, C5, C6, 7 quad.
And
Five
we're
years,
talking about
35 years.
we're talking.
I had my anniversary last week.
Oh wow, that's well. Congrats on getting over another life day.
Life
Uh,
day.
you're you're an inspiring individual to me, as someone who's made it longer in this condition than me, and is still setting an amazing example of health and function and positivity. So shout
Tom,
out.
you're right behind me, baby. You're gonna catch up any day now.
They're on that forum, the Care Cure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a forum. It's put on by Rutgers University. It's sci.rutgers.edu, I think is the link. I
Or
don't
I think you
remember
can
it.
go to carecure.org if I'm not mistaken.
And it was a huge resource for me when I was in my adolescence. Like, uh, teenager trying to learn about my disability and understand life, living with disability. I was on that forum a lot for many years, reading posts, asking questions and stuff. And there was this guy who was a quad on there, and his username was SCI for 55. And he had been paralyzed for 55 years, like Robert. And I was just like, damn, like just like reading that, like reading his like stories and experiences and stuff, it gave me a lot of hope, a lot of perspective on my disability and stuff. And I was like, okay, like I gotta be STI for 60 years at least, maybe even more. But we are talking a little bit about that today. We're talking about technology. We're particularly assistive technology, how
Tech-
that can enable us to be more functional, to live healthier, more functional lives, to um, aid us in making our way through this crazy, crazy world.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a really important topic. It's something that we've talked about a lot, and we're going to talk about it a lot more today. We're going to talk about accessible, adaptive tech that we use in our everyday lives, from things like our wheelchairs, which I think a lot of people don't even think about or consider, which is like really incredible assistive technology that's come a long way in just the last 10, 20 years. Um, but also some really future stuff. Talking about neural implants, talking about spinal implants, and um, future assistive technology that is maybe going to really impact and change our lives in a very, very significant way. Maybe even way, way down the road, end result, curing and fixing spinal cord injuries permanently. But we're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. So you're going to have to make sure to stick around
Right.
for the rest of it if
Ooh,
you want to get all the juicy topics.
you're teasing
You
them.
got to dangle the carrot a little bit, Bobby. You got to dangle the carrot a little bit.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So we're going to start by talking about assistive technology that we use in our everyday life. So I'll start. I'd say the most used piece of assistive technology I use every day and rely on for my independence. And I really do think it's a part of my identity and a part of my personality and a part of who I am because I've been in it for so long, which is my wheelchair, particularly my power wheelchair. Now, Bobby, you use a power chair too, not
In some ways,
in
you're
some ways, with like a power assist manual chair, right?
with the assistance of something attaching to the chair to my
The
manual,
smart,
and
yeah,
that's, I mean, it's just recently that I finally broke down to say, hey, I want something, with some power. I'm getting
yeah,
jealous. All right, I'm slowing down, and I hate going to and put the, I'll put Abilities Expo as part of it. As you get there, and I get off the elevator, and there's a long stretch of carpet. Every year, I'm like, fuck, 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 pushing that Vegas carpet at the
yeah.
just even, if anybody's been to Vegas and pushed a manual chair, and you go looking for any tile you can find in a casino, and you can always find them on the edges sometimes, but yeah, and this year was no worries at all for the first time. It was zip
Yeah.
out of my car, boom, I was at the booth in 2 seconds, and it was awesome, and I did it for
Uh,
pro.
that's amazing. And it's just again, demonstrates the power of just a small piece of technology. And I know smart drives didn't really even exist meaningfully 10 years ago.
No,
It's just like the beginnings of that technology to think that uh, you are just one of like the many, many individuals
man,
that
yeah,
have shared that experience and continue to have that experience in their everyday life. And I think has changed their life. I mean, if you think about a situation like somebody trying to go to college, there's I could not have done it in a manual chair, um, just distance wise. I mean, just every day. Like this morning, I had a doctor's appointment and stuff. I rolled 2.5 miles there and back to my doctor, my power chair, just cruising in a at a speed which also like made me, you know, like really functional and like very normalized in a certain sense because that can be like the other like struggle too with having a disability and dealing with this stuff is while things can be done, doing it with ease and that with the ease that any other individual could do the task, and I think is really really important, and we're getting to a point where a lot of that is becoming very possible if you can attain the right technology. So let's
true.
just step back for 1 second, and just define assistive technology. Assistive technology is anything that can be used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of independence of persons with a disability. So my favorite example is thinking, okay, what's assistive tech I also use every day other than my chair? It's something I maybe take for granted a little bit is my electric toothbrush. I used to struggle to brush my teeth. I think it's like one of the things like any quad, like learning independent skills again, especially if you got the quad pause. It's nothing worse than like getting spit all over yourself and like dealing with like spitting in a cup or something and like just the struggle of brushing your teeth.
Even know
Using my
you're the brushes are like this, and you're like, I'm not doing shit to my teeth. I'm not getting that plaque off, and you're
yeah,
not massaging your gum or the barrel. You're just like, and by the time you get to one side and you got to go to the other side, you're like, fuck this, I'm done. Wow, man, I that's my like fifth F word today. So I think I just did my
keep dropping them, baby. I'm liking it, dude. Bobby's feeling a little fiery. I might have to start dropping them too. As long as it's not in the first like 2 minutes of the video, that's okay. YouTube doesn't care.
yeah.
Um, and I think our audience doesn't mind either. But the reason I bring up my electric toothbrush, that's a very affordable piece of accessible technology that anybody, not anybody, but most people have access to. And my greater point is that's, I don't think, often considered like a piece of accessible technology, although it is very much so a piece of assistive technology, um, because it does improve our functional capability of brushing our teeth. Makes it easier, brushes them better, and that is kind of what I wanted to talk about more broadly. Is there's a lot of technology, a lot of tools, stuff readily available, stuff made for making just everybody's everyday life easier that makes our life easier as well and can be used like as a way of making a task more accessible. So brushing our teeth is just a small, like one small example. We're continue on like grooming, using like an electric razor versus having to like do the shaving cream and use an electric razor and nick myself, and like just the struggle of doing that like parallel to my sink, not being able to like lean over. Like an electric razor, as a hairy gentleman, it changed the game. Like it really did. Like I used to have my mom and dad help me shave when I was living at home, and it was like one of the things that I thought about when I was moving out. It's like on the checklist, like, okay, got to be able to brush my teeth, got to be able to feed myself, brush my hair, shave my face, and stuff like that. And getting an electric razor was the assistive technology that enabled me to do that. And it was just like a creative idea my dad had. He was like, well, he was like, hey, maybe we could try this. And we got it and it works, you know? Do you have anything that you can think of like that, Bobby?
I was going to take like a little bit of a step back. When I got hurt, the first assistive technology that I remember them showing me was, a book on this electric page turner. So it turn your page. And this is, you got to remember, 89. And this, it went, and it would change and I'm thinking, that is awesome, you know, but not awesome to pay $2,000. And then they showed me like, oh, your home environment kit can be this, and it was like a almost $10,000 system to where to turn on your lights and turn on your TV and turn on a fan. And it's just amazing now that we have Alexa that can easily do that, or if it's hey Siri or whatever you want. And uh, now the cost is so down. So really, the technology of what Amazon has really done, what Apple and Samsung has produced with cell phones. You remember our first? I don't know if you remember your first cell phone, but mine was, pretty heavy. Not the brick. I never had the brick, but the first 10 years of me using a cell phone was like, there's got to be something easier. It was a flip, and now we have, you got it in your hand. It's right
Yeah.
there, easy to use.
And
And with the text,
even like easy and intuitive to interact with. Like that's like the thing that trips me out the most is like I'll be sitting here using like the back of my hand a lot of the time. And just because it's like a touch interface and stuff, and it doesn't dictate you having to use your fingertip or anything, like it's however you are able to use it and make it function. So this is again really great example of
well,
assistive
yeah, if
technology.
you go into the assistive technology settings parts of accessibility, what it can, and what you can, you can make it that. I love it that somebody who's a C3 that doesn't have the use of their arms and they're in bed. And Dominic, I know you're watching, bud. Let me know if you have this portion, which would be sort of annoying because now we get so many scam calls. But it can answer. Your phone can answer on the second ring. Which is amazing for somebody that can't, you know, hit that button to say, answer. The only
I
thing I
told
would like it if I did answer every phone call, half of them would be like, "All right, fuck off because you're a scammer." So I'm gonna keep going with the F word today. I don't know why.
keep the headphones coming. Um, I told this story the other day on the show, but like I fell the other day. in my apartment, and I was able to use Siri to not just make a phone call, but make a phone call on speaker, so that like I could hear, the person that I was calling and communicate what was going on and communicate effectively and figure out my situation without having to call 911 or something, or like. And I thought, I don't know, I'm still kind of tripping out on that. Like, again, I just thought to try it in the moment. The fact that it worked, like I wasn't even sure that it could do that, but it could. And it was just a testament to how important it is and how these things could be utilized so creatively to make a meaningful difference in our
It
lives.
actually saved my ass one night from falling on the ground. I was rolling backwards to shut my front door, and I spun around so fast that I lost my balance. And I have a little bit of a steep, not steep, but it's quick. You've been at my house. What would you say? It's just kind of a quick upgrade to the front.
It's a decent 20,
Yeah.
30% grade in some points on your driveway.
I was like, oh shit. And like I was holding on that I wouldn't slip out. And my watch was right there. And thank God, for Apple Watches, I'm like, hey Siri, calling my neighbor. And shut up, don't call. And he was over, he came over and he popped me up. And I remember that night because I was supposed to go out and meet our buddy Paul from our literal family in Canada, who we had on Thursday on the Rolling Over the Hill show. But I was excited to go meet him. Here's a guy I've conversed with for 3 years, and now I'm going to go meet him. And here I am, almost about to fall out of my chair, going, "What a that! It could have been a disaster night if it wasn't for technology to get my neighbor over."
Which is very cool and really something I think everybody should consider and think about if you don't have a tool like that in your life, because there's a bunch of versions and variations of it. And Bobby said it earlier, even something like a $20 Alexa can link up to your phone and be able to like make calls for you and stuff like that. If just look into the software side of it. And it's just really important, really cool. I think also what you mentioned too before we got on this little tangent,
Mm-hmm.
um, controlling your home, controlling your home with smart technology. That assistive tech is, again, I think life changing for individuals with disabilities. Being able to, once you're in bed, turn off your lights. On a like, it wasn't even something I thought about until I had moved out. Like, I had transfer one night, I like forgot to turn all my lights off, and I'm like, fuck. I have to get back up in my chair just to turn all the lights off and then get back in bed and stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just pulling the blanket, like
Yeah,
blanket over my head and just passed out, like didn't worry about it. But now all of my lights are hooked up to a smart outlet that I can just control with an app on my phone. I don't have it, but similarly for door locks, like they have automatic locks now, even automatic doors that'll open just when your geolocation, is tagged on your lock. When you roll up to the door will just open for you. And you said it, like this is not two like thousands of dollars. These are like 30 dollars little devices you buy on Amazon nowadays. So it's very, maybe the door thing's a little bit more if you
the
got one
door.
that
Yeah,
like
the door unlocked. Like
but, but still like an unlocked one is super cheap, right?
it might. I paid 75 for it, but it had the keypad and all that. But we drive away, and sometimes my wife's like, she's kind of neurotic sometimes with, and she always comes back sometimes after 5 minutes being gone. I'm like, what's wrong? She goes, I forgot to check to see if I unplugged the iron. And so many times we're driving away, and she goes, I don't know if I unlocked or locked the front door. And it's so easy, I'm just like, hey, the S word, lock the front door, and it will pop up that it's already locked or it's locking, so it's like done. So
That's so funny. My dad, I love you, Dad. You're my favorite person in the whole wide world. But you had this routine when we live home where we like all be loaded up in the car and he'd get in the car and then he would like have to get back out and go check the door and make sure that it's locked. It was just like it was always locked. It's just so funny the paranoia we get. But in any event, I think that technology, particularly for individuals with disabilities, if you are um, particularly trying to live independently, these can make living independently possible. But also, just having independence in your home with the people that you live with too is a freedom and a comfort that I think is really, really super important to figure out and attain if possible. Just so you're not having to constantly rely on somebody. That kind of independence and freedom, even if you live at home with your loved ones and stuff, I think is just important. I think it's super, super important. Um,
Yeah, and Roy kind of said it with that door lock system. There's, now with that, what is it called? Ring. Now it has the camera in there. So you don't, with
yeah, you
being in a chair and I'm by myself and somebody's knocking at 8 o'clock at night, it's like, shit, like nobody should be knocking on my door. So it is nice to have the ring. I hooked it up a long time ago and it never worked. I don't know why. It just, my Wi-Fi kept conking out on it. I don't know. So it's a big joke in our house that my wife's always like, "Oh, they have a ring that works," and I'm like, "Shut up." So
They, my family has one too, and they are really cool. And I think particularly if it's not easy for you to get out to your front door in a timely manner, being able to see who's there for one and communicate, either that it's going to be a minute or tell them to fuck off if they're not welcome.
there you go.
That
Now you're into the
that is. No, I'm into it, mommy. I'm into it. I'm into it, baby. Um,
and
let's talk about
there's other
smartphones.
brands than Ring too, so, and that might be
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah. I use my phone as a means to interact with many different things in my life. Like I use it to communicate, for one. I use it to control things in my life, like my lights and stuff. I use it to control my computer. I have an app that is a mobile mouse. So, like, if I'm laying in bed or something, it's just like a little trackpad that moves my cursor and I can click and I can put it on Netflix or I can pull up something or whatever if I'm laying in bed or if I'm not close to my keyboard like I have in my lap right now or something, right? And I think I don't know, it's a tool that I love, 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 and utilize to great effect and makes a meaningful impact in my life. And the reason I talk about it is because if you are using a smartphone or a tablet or something, highly encourage you to do
Oh,
so.
yeah, nowadays, you have.
I don't have to say that because everybody's got a smartphone nowadays,
Oh
but
yeah, but
um,
the beauty of the tablet now as well, with the T-Fizzle, you're doing the PS5, is it, or no, Xbox,
I
right?
yeah, I get them on a PC, but yeah,
Yeah,
all of the above.
but for me, I'm not a big gamer, but it's just cool to play a game on my iPad that's so easy with touchpad that I don't have to grab um, a joystick and worry about the joystick. So it's made it easy for gaming as well as you know
Also, you don't need a $2,000 page turner anymore either because like if you have a tablet that's an e-reader,
mhm.
you can just like just as easily do a task like reading too. Where if like holding a book and keeping the page and doing that is an issue, like that's it. All you got to do is swipe the back of your hand. Like the simplest, like littlest, laziest motion, and then you're there. But like particularly a tablet, I've known a lot of quads who maybe struggle more with a smaller smartphone using like a tablet to interact with and like have all their apps and their phone apps and their games and their social media and all their communication apps and stuff. It does make a more accessible surface to interact with, I think,
Yeah,
sometimes too.
I
So
mean, the best thing that I like for my far being farsighted, is reading my newspaper now on the tablet. Back in the day, I remember always trying to the paper, by the end of the time I'm done with the paper, is just like all in a wad of ball, and now it's just great to capture any article, and I do the Apple One subscription. So I get the news for Apple, so I get all the news articles, and then we have Apple Fitness Plus, and then we have um, I think it comes with Apple TV, and then it comes with um, Arcade or something like that. There's a few of them, but and it's $30 a month. And what's great about it is reading the articles that I can and be picky and choosy about what I really want to read, and I still like looking at the news every day, and I get my half an hour, and that's all I can really handle.
As a quad, do you prefer using a tablet more than a smartphone?
When it comes to that for reading, and I don't know how I'm like I said, I don't always have access to my glasses. A lot of times I take off my glasses here at the desk, and so in the morning it's just easier to read my news when I'm still in bed than trying to hold a phone, where I'm halfway laying down and trying to swipe. And it just, I like that bigger view of an iPad Pro. And it made it a lot easier when a couple years ago I was down with the pressure sore from the surgery, and it was just nice that I'm laying on my side and easy to do a iPad and do what I want with it. If it was play poker, I can play poker. If it was read my news, the remote for my TV, it was awesome.
Pardon me, I just had to take a little sip of my coffee real quick.
Man, I could
So
not do the coffee after this time of day.
somebody went to the
Sure.
coffee pot. Forgot I had a cup in front of me. Low caffeine never steer you wrong, Bobby. But I don't know, it's another piece of assistive technology that I maybe didn't really think or realize till just now is my Keurig. Having like a 1 cup coffee maker that I can very simply and easily interact
Yeah.
with. Um, I I've tried to pick up a pot before, like at my parents' house, and pour me a cup, and I burned myself, and it's scary. And like picking up a big glass pot with my quad hands and like trying not to pour like scalding coffee on me. Having the ability to just hit a button and make a quick cup for me, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's a little thing. It's like a little luxury. But again, it's um, I feel like really lucky and really cool to
What
live in a time where there's tech that exists that lets me get my afternoon cup, as a quad.
what flavor do you like?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Dark, medium, roast. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
picky.
Picky.
Um,
It
I don't
also
really like the I don't really like the flavored stuff.
hip grip said it. That's why whenever um, I volunteer for Special Olympics, and they have one over there, and I always get the donut coffee one. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just right. It reminds me of like McDonald's or something. Um, so yeah, Hip Grip said about his thermostat. Same thing. I do the same thing with the phone. At night I turn it down. In the morning I turn it up with my phone, and it's awesome. And when I'm in the hallway too, it's up a little bit higher, and I didn't have to modify coming down. So it's nice to have, where I can just do it from my phone and not worry about like, the only time I ever had to worry about it is we switched internet providers and had to change all the everything that's electronic. That's one pain in the ass. You have to go to like, oh, my TV, my Apple TV, and this and that and that. And then even some days you're like logged into something, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. I haven't logged in with the new internet password on this. So it's like a pain in the butt. So I had to direct my wife because it's up high. And but after once the new internet's in there, it's like, it's so nice to have that control of, saving, the heater at night where I don't need it, and turn it on in the morning when I do need it.
Um, yeah, I there's definitely some pain in the butt in regards to technology, but I definitely think the pros outweigh the cons. I don't know. This is another topic, and I think we'll use this to kind of branch and catapult into more um, future assistive tech that I think is going to be that we're already using in our everyday lives, and I think is going to be more instrumental in making our lives more accessible and improving our normal functionality in the everyday world. Um, One being AI, artificial intelligence. Everybody's talking about it. ChatGPT, all these like AIs that are coming out. Um, I, I, I always think the first thing I usually think about when I hear about a new technology or a new tool is how can that be used by people with disabilities to make their lives easier. Um, Something like ChatGPT, I think it's really cool. For anybody that doesn't know what this is, it's a artificial intelligence that is a language model. So you speak to it normally and it speaks back to you normally. And then it can do tasks for you. Like you can write things. If you just give it a prompt, it can write something out for you. Now, as an individual that types slower than the average person, that can be a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
And you can even just talk to it using speech to text and say, hey, write an email to Bobby saying, I got to cancel lunch tomorrow for some reason,
And
um, and
do
make up a reason. And it'll write the email for you, and you don't have to type it out, and then it'll just copy and paste, send off to Bobby. Sorry, I got more important things going on.
listen here, fucko. I got more important things to do. But it will say it in a better way than just saying that. And you can say it in a funny way. I have a funny story, Tom, about it though. You gotta dumb it down for someone like me because I wrote a 20-year anniversary and copied and pasted and put it on Instagram so my wife can see the video with what I put down. And she read that.
Oh,
2 seconds later, she goes, "You did not write this. You did not write this." And I had to be honest, like it was Chat GP.
that's where you have to use it more for like a prompt and inspiration, and then add a little bit of your own flavor.
Yeah, you gotta.
All right, don't get yourself in trouble there, Bobby. Um,
Uh, she thought she goes, well, that's pretty creative. Then I'll give you. I got an A for effort on that one. So
Here's an example of how it could potentially impact you or help you and assist you in the future is, I don't know, let's just take your lights and your thermostats. Let's say this is again a little big brothery, but let's say you're okay with having a camera in your room, something that watches you, and it's linked to an AI. And this AI, when it sees you get into bed, it automatically sets the thermostat to the thermostat you like for when you sleep. It automatically puts your bed in the right position. It turns the lights off for you without you even having to think or know, because it's watched you and it's seen you and it understands your routine enough to be able to anticipate your needs. Now, let's say there's also a robot in your house. Maybe just like a little arm that's like cruising around that can reach and grab things. And again, like it is like able to anticipate your needs even to a certain extent. You can't ask it to go and grab you that cup of coffee on the counter and bring it over to you and set it on your desk or hand it to you. But also, like, you might start to walk towards the kitchen or something, and it'll begin to grab the mug before you even start to do it. And again, this is a little like future sci-fi, Jetsons, whatever you want to call it, but it is very quickly becoming a reality. And while it seems a little strange to maybe talk about it in that way, I think it could be an incredibly, incredibly powerful tool for someone who's living on their own, that maybe struggles with mobility or, relies, just is disabled, has independence issues. What that might do or what that could mean for an individual like that, as someone who's living this life right now too. I know it sounds sci-fi and crazy to talk about, but it's like the kind of tech that I hope for. because of how I think it could change my life in a positive way. And we're beginning to see it. You ever heard of a little company called Neuralink, Bobby?
Yeah, I know about it from when I worked at Rancho, and they had a gentleman go through the trial process, and I knew the gentleman pretty well, and got to watch some of the progress every time I would pop my head into the room and see some of the stuff they were doing. So just very little, and I know that, and that was 5 years ago when he had finished up his study, and what we're seeing on the news and in the papers, that it's getting up there. It's starting to make, a lot of headline or headway in what our brain can do with these neuro implants, and just thinking it's pretty awesome. I know we had a little bit of discussion, will we do it, after this many years, but for somebody that just got hurt and newly injured, that in a way just feel like all hope is lost, and somebody that it can really change somebody's attitude and life, which is pretty awesome, as well as independence. Just I should say, for probably both of those reasons, that they can have hope.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Anything to help provide that for somebody at the beginning. I don't know, like everybody, we're all doing pretty well. We didn't have like the opportunity for some crazy neural implant to like give us hope for the future, and I think like the majority of us are able to overcome the transition of this disability and stuff. But you were absolutely right. I don't know, like it's what a time to become a spinal cord injured individual with all the cool medicine and technology and treatments that they have coming out for it. I think it's really something unique and cool and special, an exciting time to be alive. Even as someone who's been paralyzed for 26 years, I think it's really amazing to see. And we're really talking about two different kinds of tech. One, the Neuralink thing is what Bobby was talking about. It's a brain implant. It's an implant that they put in your brain that um, is technology that links up with other technology outside of your brain, outside of your body, and allows you to interface with it. The other kind of implant that's very commonly talked about and referenced in regards to particularly spinal cord injuries are spinal implants, spinal stimulators. And this is like part of that technology too that they're working on developing. Now, a spinal implant is basically a microchip that they want to put in your spine that will link up the working nerves on either side of your injury and transmit the signals in a way that allows you to function relatively normally using your brain and your normal central nervous system, just bridging the gap of that broken part of your spine. They have made lots of leaps and bounds in progress with those. I've seen videos of quadriplegics 4 or 5 years post injury, my level walking using a spinal stimulator. And not for very long or for very far, but nonetheless, it's no pun intended, the first steps towards making this technology more meaningful and like getting to the point where we're able to ambulate, if not normally and all the time, for meaningful periods of time and in a meaningful way. Now the other kind of technology we're talking about here, the brain implants, it's not so much curing or fixing your disability. It's allowing you to interface with technology outside of your body without you having to physically interact with it. So, for example, I could just think, cursor up to the left, click, you know, open new window or whatever, and my computer will begin to do that. I can just think and the cursor will move in response to how I'm instructing it to, almost as if I would move my hand or I would just be moving a mouse. Now, the reason we're talking about it today is because there was the first human trial done on a C4 quadriplegic from Arizona, just 5 or 6 hours away from where we're here in LA. Neuralink is based out of California, which I think is why they're looking for a candidate here on the West Coast primarily. And I don't really know their. I've checked out their patient uh, like form to like apply for the trials and the studies that they're working on. I didn't fill anything out, but I was just curious as to what the requirements were. And it's pretty cool. At least the early results seem to be very positive. So this individual, his name is Nathan Arbaugh. He's 29 years old, and he was paralyzed in a car accident. Got this device. Now he's a C4. He has less upper body function than somebody like me at a C6. Whereas like I can't hold my arms above my head, but I can lift it to about shoulder level. He can't. His arms are stuck down here, and he's not really able to um, lift them to interact with things, even something like a computer mouse. So he signed up for the trial and he got picked, and they implanted this device into his brain. And the way the procedure went is it was brain surgery, cut out a dime size portion of his skull, and they put the implant inside that segment of skull that they took out. And then they used a robot to weave 1,000 tiny little microfilament fiber optic cables into his neurons and axons in his dura mater, which is the gray matter in our brain. And through that, through they're able to read his brain data in a certain respect. The electrical data, not electronic, the electrical data, because all of our thoughts and everything that goes on in our brain is just little tiny electrical impulses that coordinate with all of our biological matter that allow us to function in this particular way. They're able to read some of that electrical data, the firing of those axons, and put it through software and find patterns in how those axons are firing, how those electric signals are firing. And based on that, based on those patterns, those are basically his thoughts. In a very, it's not so much like reading his thoughts and being able to understand like our inner voice, but those patterns are the electrical signals that are interacting with the central nervous system, like moving a muscle. So what they're able to then do with that implant is use other software that they've written to interact with that device. So they did some training with him, um, and they told him to. I again, this is a very like layman version of what they did. Um, they had him think particular patterns and particular thoughts. Like think like move the cursor up, move the cursor to the left, move the cursor to the right, move the cursor down, and they read the patterns. And then they told the software on the computer to move with accordance to those patterns. And sure enough, he was able to interact with the computer and move a cursor and play chess using his brain, using his thoughts. And then they were able to, he was able to use it to play video games. He was able to play Civilization 6, and he was able to link it up to Mario Kart and play Mario Kart. And um, all through just his thoughts. Now, let's take away the games and like, I think interacting with the computer is a really powerful thing, especially this day and age. But imagine being able to control your chair like that,
Yeah, I
you
was.
know?
That's one question I wanted to ask Dominic, and he just was in the comments. So Dominic, how awesome would that be if you were able to use your brain for your chair? I mean, I don't. And also let us know, is it something that you would go through now that it's been over 35 plus years for you? Just interested in wondering about that. I know it's for somebody 5 and under, I think it's a game changer for them. I know that sometimes after being injured for a while, some of us get set in our ways. Like if somebody came and offered me, tricep, um, extensions, even though they were back when I was, and they said I'll do it for free, but the whole process of it is just still like today after I've managed this long, I think I'm going to be okay. So, sometimes when we get in our set in our ways, but if it was easy where I didn't have the long process of healing from that, because you have to be in a cast. I've heard like for 3 months. Um,
That's the thing.
you
He
know,
was he was out of the hospital the next day and already functioning with the device because the it's a it's a robot that does a procedure. The incision is something like 10 millimeters, and then they're able to like do it's something really crazy. But that's the big part of what Neuralink is doing. And the way that I understand it is they don't want this to be like a intensive recovery and really in-depth invasive procedure. It's something that you can go in, do today, and be out of the hospital tomorrow. And while that I'm sure he's under observation, and there's so many checks and balances with these like initial
and there's probably
step
a lot of training.
human
Did it say how much
testing.
training you had to go through by any chance in the article you had?
I'm not sure, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know how much training he did in regards to like utilizing the device. Here's the thing, though. I don't think he can keep it. I think they gotta take it out.
Yeah,
Um,
that's because it's a study.
because it's a study,
Oh man,
and these aren't like fully FDA approved.
like you want to lick? Like,
Yeah, see, I don't know about that. Like, if you unlock a tool like that for me, you better be ready to fight me for it. Cause I'm not giving it back. I'm gonna take over the world, baby. Like, you don't know what kind of power you just unleashed. I'm just kidding. I don't think
oh
I
yeah,
would become a
and I
supervillain.
and this is awesome to see this kind of technology. I think it pulls in line with you know not only with the brain but also with the spine, that it can help us with our nerves for someone, maybe lower injury for those, somebody who's incomplete, and see the study where it's firing off some of the muscles, so you're able to use your quads and your hamstrings and your your calves and plantar foot, so you don't get drop foot, and maybe take some steps, just kind of like what was that? Oh, I knew I was going to draw a blank once it came up. The walking device, the big, you almost look like RoboCop. What was that called, Tom? Help me out.
Um,
Somebody
I,
that would know where you kind
I
of,
don't know. I don't know why I'm blanking out either, but
yeah,
I know it's like the mech suit, like the
yeah.
freaking.
And it's great that we have starts, and you're hearing about some of the trials that are going on with stem cells studies, and I'm hearing a lot of where they're putting in shots in the above and below, and seeing what's firing and what's not, and they're making headways,
Exoskeleton.
especially if you're
Exoskeleton.
following Dr. Weiss, and I know that he's making a lot of headway, and you have to have it start somewhere, and I think that's what the beauty of
So
technology is.
let's let's get into the meat of it, Bobby.
Sure.
You wouldn't do it to just interface with technology without having to physically interact with it.
Ah, tough question.
And let's say,
And,
like,
and,
I'll
and
sweeten the
I
pot
think
a little bit.
I
I'll sweeten
think
the pot a little bit. Too. It's the surgery where you go in today and you come out tomorrow, meaning like there's not meaningful hospital stay or anything like that.
right.
Maybe you have to like spend some hours, training the technology or learning the software, but nothing more than that.
It's tough to say, depending on what the device is going to actually do for me. And maybe, I always say, like, if I was going to go through, I wouldn't be the guinea pig of what, a lot of times research for stem cell is, you have to be, you know, sometimes incomplete in less than a year or less than 5 years. I know there's some studies where they're letting people, complete 20 years plus, but, you know, it's, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, if it was just like that and a snap of a finger, maybe, you know, but I don't know.
I
Yeah, else help
I
me.
think I think I think if
I
a
hope.
100,000 other people got it, and like we started to see it kind of more commonly done, or I mean, and like let's just say not just 100,000, like 100 million people decided to do it, and or just a lot of disabled people, it was becoming very commonplace. Like, um, I think people would probably be more inclined. It's a little, it's a little weird tech right now. It's like, okay, you're putting something in my brain. Like, what the heck? Like, that sounds very invasive. It sounds very scary. There's Our brain is also like an organ in our body we know the least about. So, what are the implications, long term effects, and things? This is all stuff we don't know yet. And it's stuff that they're learning and doing these studies to learn and figure out. But I think it's very, like, maybe not in the near term, but I'd say the next 10, 20 years will probably be
Yeah.
something to think
So,
about, something to consider,
yeah,
particularly for newly injured individuals and, maybe like someone's earlier on in their injury and stuff. Like the main reason I wouldn't is because I interface so well with all the technology I have in my life already.
right.
Like, what would be the benefit? Like, would it make me more lazy because I wouldn't be like using my body as much to like, get up and move and interact with all my stuff? Like, I'd just be vegging out in bed, like playing Star Citizen all day, like with my brain. Like, maybe, and that sounds
Maybe
kind
when
of cool too.
yeah, that would be nice when we're 80, and then we can like, or it's time to stay in bed. It's not time to worry about our independence anymore. Yeah,
But it really does like sound kind of exciting and cool to me to be able to interact with an interface with my home maybe more meaningfully with like just a thought, being able to like think lights off and the lights just go off and stuff. Like, heck, that sounds super cool. If it's like a safe thing that they can do with very, very little risk to me, and it's something that's like been verified and trusted that it's safe medically and everything, why not? Now, the big thing where I think this technology could truly change individuals' lives in, I don't know, ways that I can't even put into words is they're trying to make, and he can already do it, just using a cursor, which is like typing out words, but they're trying to streamline using a keyboard, meaning like thinking letters and thinking words and having them type. Now that, so it does sound scary, but for an individual like Stephen Hawking or so many disabled individuals out there who can't vocalize, maybe never been able to vocalize, to be able to get a procedure to provide them with a voice, and not just a voice but their own voice potentially, like real time thoughts that they mean to speak out loud being able to be communicated. I think that's astounding, and I don't know. Like, I think about someone like, to go back to this example, like Stephen Hawking. If the engineers at IBM did not spend the hundreds and thousands of hours they did to make his voice and allow him a means to write and communicate, humanity would be lacking our understanding of our universe that we would not otherwise know or have without his ability to think and write and communicate. How many other individuals out there have a similar capacity, have that similar potential within them, but they just don't have the tools and the technology to allow them to communicate it, to allow them to express that. And that's where this kind of technology excites me, is because there are so many people around the world that are in these positions that I think have unmeasured potential as anybody does, but don't necessarily have the opportunity to express that. Any technology that furthers humanity and enabling everybody to be able to express their potential, I think is a really, really beautiful, exciting thing, and something.
Be careful with that. You know, you got somebody that comes up and you just thought, oh, this guy's a jerk, and it comes out somehow, and you're like, oh, great. No, I didn't want him to know. I thought he was a jerk. You know, or kind of like what you said earlier before we got went live. You know, that'd be kind of scary. You think a dirty
Yeah,
thought.
like you have a current thought, like, and all of a sudden your cursor just goes flying off in another direction, or something opens up on your computer that you don't intend to, or you just exactly that. You have a thought that you mean to stay inside your head, and all of a sudden it's said out loud on your communication device. I'm assuming and hope that as we continue to develop this tech, that there will be checks and balances in place to not have stuff like that happen. But again, I don't know the future, and I don't know.
And I think, when we said, earlier about AI, I mean, the biggest thing is it just sounds pretty scary, especially what, you hear in the news that they're making, um, Biden's voice say these things with AI, or they can do it with, uh, Trump, or pictures and things like that are not true. And so technology also can be a pretty scary thing if not safely
Well,
done.
absolutely. I mean, there's so much to consider with AI, especially when it comes to replacing, jobs and humans, and also just like
Yeah.
rogue intelligence, and with possibly its own intentions, and stuff like that. It's like Terminator-esque as that sounds, as crazy as that sounds. Like it
It,
is becoming a reality,
yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like technology has always been like that. I mean, electricity, like it powers our world, and we interact with it in so many meaningful ways. It even powers us. Like, but if you have a little bit too much of it, it can fry you. It can be very dangerous. It could kill somebody else too. Social media, it allows you to communicate and connect instantaneously with anybody, anywhere in the world. But it's also a machine to sow and share disinformation, and to spread hate, and to bully, and to lie. And there's positives and negatives to all technology and all tools. I think that's where humanity comes in, and we think about this in a lot of different ways, and a lot of different bright minds think about the problems with it, and we work hopefully towards the best interests of humanity. Um, I'm really just thinking about the best interests of my disabled people, and how these tools and technology could hopefully benefit us in our future, because I think the potential to positively affect our lives, and that's I think where a lot of the technology and the energy for these tools are being directed towards. Neuralink is a company specifically dedicated to currently dedicated their efforts to helping individuals with disabilities live more independent, active lives through interfacing with technology. I think that's super cool
Mhm.
and super amazing and really exciting. And the fact that we're seeing the first human trials, and they're yielding positive results, and the homie was able to sit there for 8 hours on his computer and play a game of Civilization 6 with his friends after having not been able to for 4 or 5 years. That alone, I don't know, I think that's so meaningful and special, as somebody who's been able to do that myself. Like, not being able to, and then being able to do that again. I'm not even feel like it's crazy to say it can be life changing. it can be life changing, and the potential for all this tech can be really life changing too. Um,
um, some of
so
I wanted.
before you,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna. My opinion is, I would do it. I would do it. I think I want to wait till like the human trials and stuff are all done and it's like real technology. But I
Yeah,
would do it. Anyway, I'm real big into becoming a cyborg. So,
you know,
if it starts with a neural implant, I'm ready.
and that goes for like doing a stem cell or something like that. Where I know that so many people uh, have done it. You know, knowing my luck, sometimes I would be the one who gets the infection or something would go wrong, and
Stop
call me
it.
a worrywart, but I've already had enough shit to my body that
The AI would choose your body to take over and use as a human puppet to do its nefarious ends.
yeah, that little one would just go, "Yep, let's just choose him because we've already given him enough and he can handle it." No, I can't, but so I don't know, but something I wanted to just rewind a little bit, and it was said earlier by our good friend Olivia. Um, when we think about technology, and something we forgot to say is the 3D, printing, and with our buddy, Mark, and making adaptive tools for quads and things that you can do now with 3D printing. It's just amazing. And we talked about wheelchairs and the attachments, but also just our chairs itself. I mean, compared to what a manual chair and a power chair was 35 years ago to compare what it is now. And it's kind of like um, what we're seeing with cars. And I think Roy said it earlier. We have the autonomous cars coming out, and it's real. And if you're in Arizona, you could be picked up by a taxi or Uber that no one's driving it, and it was sad to see that one thing when I went to Washington, D.C. with um, the Spinal Network group, and we, fought for that autonomous cars have to be accessible right off the assembly line, and that doesn't look like it's going to be quite there. But it's great that one day that there'll be more cars out there that we can get into and get from point A to point B than just worrying about access or something like that. You know,
I'm waiting for the replicator from like Star Trek to like come out. Sorry, Mark, it's gonna replace you, but like you just hit a button and all of a sudden like a device just like prints, like in this little box, and it's just like, anything, any form of, any combination of molecules and stuff you can imagine, it can just instantaneously put together. But I'll wait until they wake me up a few hundred years in the future and all that technology is here. Um, but yeah, technology is really cool. Bobby said it. Technology is, I think, what you make it. It certainly can not be. It can be dangerous. It cannot be great, but I think a lot of it can be really amazing, powerful tool and a powerful positive force in our lives. Allow us to get out and participate normally and more functionally. I know your little e-bike that you use, Bobby, that lets you go out biking with your bro and with Ellen and stuff. I mean, that in itself is,
well, it made me feel like a cyclist again. I mean, this
yeah,
did 28 miles this morning, rode to the beach. It was glorious of knowing that I have an easy way for my level of injury to get out there and feel like a cyclist. When I pass another cyclist on the bike path, they're like, "Hey, wow, cool." It just, yeah, and it's only getting better, and it's only getting easier for quads and paras out there. A lot of different.
uh, yeah, no, and that is the power of technology. That is it. That is kind of the point. Um, that I want to come to at the end here is whatever your passions are, whatever your interests are, that's one of the hardest things I think can be is the loss that we experience as a result of our disability is not being able to do a hobby or do something that we really used to enjoy. Um, and with technology, I think whatever that may be, whatever that interest is, um, it might be something that can be made accessible, if not in the same exact way that it was done before. A meaningful way that could provide you some fulfillment and joy in whatever that interest might be. And the potential for the future, I think, is really exciting in regards to tech that might positively affect our lives and allow us to be a little bit more normal and functional in this crazy world we're living in. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on, Bobby?
Um, if you're not with, everything that we were saying with your technology and turning on the lights and those kind of things, and there is some cost related to it, and there are grants out there with Triumph Foundation to help you with some of that for those that can't afford it. And we help out grants, across nationwide here in the States. So, look at what can make your life a little bit easier, and we were just talking about the hand bike. Yeah, it was a dream tool for me, and it's $8,000. But there's grants out there. There's especially when you want to do something adaptive sports like that. Mine was fully paid for by Kelly Brush Foundation and Triumph Foundation. So um, there's means and ways to reach a lot of that technology out there.
I
Um,
really hope that that is something that companies like Neuralink and other companies pursuing these efforts too are considering, is how accessible this technology and these procedures and stuff are going to be to people. I really hope that it's not barred by the amount of money you can pony up to the table, um, as compared to the impact it can have in your life, and who it's going to be made available to the different parts of the world and stuff. I really hope that it's going to be equitable in how they uh, provide this to people. But we'll see. We shall see. Leon, shout out Leon, shout out Roy, shout out Olivia, shout out my mama, Alice, and everybody else in the chat. What up, Crypto Rob? The Toby Eye Tracker, super, super, super cool device, dude. I really want to get one. The Toby Eye Tracker, I know a ton about it. There's actually a bunch of video games that use it, which is kind of why I know a lot about it. But the eye tracking technology is, and also gesture recognition technology too. With a lot of VR devices, they're using gesture recognition. So you wave your hand like you're Iron Man, like to move a window, on your screen or something like that, or on your augmented environment. And they're programming accessibility into that too. So that it's not necessarily like super specific hand gestures, whereas it's like more general gestures and stuff like that. And eye tracking is really amazing technology that allows you to interface with your computer and other similar devices too, that exists right now, that isn't some crazy brain implant. It's $199 for a Tobii eye tracker, and pretty easy and simple to set up and install on your computer, and works with a ton of really usable software. So thank you for sharing that, Leon. Um, Something really important, and um, glad you reminded me of it. Bobby, I can't wait till we're all cyborgs, man. Um,
I guess, yeah. Maybe when I'm
when you
be a cyborg, but I'll wait.
okay,
I'm happy with where.
let let me pose this like question to you. Let's say they have this serum that stops your brain from aging, so your brain can just exist and still continue to operate and function, but your body still ages, right? Now, what if, let's say, 20, 30 years, they can take your brain and put you in a robot body and you could continue to live forever? Would you do that?
So you're talking like why Ted Williams froze his head and Walt Disney, I think they froze their head.
No, I'm not talking cryogenically frozen. I'm talking about
I,
like just being transplanted to a brain case, like, and your brain case being put into a cyborg body, and you being able to just like operate a robot body.
Well, yeah, you know, once the body is done, yeah, I mean, and I still have my wits about me, sure, why not, you know?
All
Um,
right, robot
I don't know, but
Bobby.
you're like, I mean, it posed the question of saying, do you want to live forever? You know,
All right.
you know, I don't know.
The answer to that question is yes. It'll be hard to experience loss again and again, but I think it'd be cool to see the future. Maybe not. The future maybe seems kind of scary. I don't know. Maybe I take that back. Maybe I take that back. I'd have to think about it more. I'd have to think about
Yeah,
it more.
it's
But if they had an opportunity to put me in a robot body, I think I'd go for it. And to answer your question earlier, Olivia, would I be cryogenically frozen and woken up into the future? I don't know. I've looked into it and I've seen the tech that they got right now, and I don't know if these heads they got floating around. You got to share a cryo container with other people, which is kind of gross. I'd want my own cryopod if they're going to do it, and then you can choose to just have your head or your head and your body frozen. So they have these containers with like 5 heads and 2 whole people. And I don't know. It just all sounds kind of creepy and gross to me. So I'm not sure about all that. I think I'd want like real, like legitimate cryotech or some way to like better preserve.
but
Um,
I'd rather see the technology of, you know, is a, you know, where I could be born again, but I have still all the, you know, of all what I've learned now in the, you know, my last 50 years plus on this,
well,
shove
I
it
think that's what
into just a
the
little baby and then, you know, grow up. And now I know, you know, the things that, you know, I would be like, oh yeah, like,
oh weird, Bobby. You want to be put into like your
like
your
everything.
current
And then
life experience be put
born
into a
again,
baby
all my
and
thoughts.
live again? I
Yeah.
don't know about all that. I
I
don't know
would
about
do
all that.
that.
I don't
The
know
the
about that.
mistakes I wouldn't make and, you know, all that. I mean, I know that's what makes us, but and the things I would redo or try harder and like, oh yeah, school actually did matter when I was a kid, so I'm gonna make it matter now. And I doubt that because I'll probably be just as lazy. You know, that's the problem.
Yeah. Now we're talking about time machines and stuff. I don't know about all that. We probably should quit while we're ahead.
Yeah, I know. Now we're
With,
going
with
down the rabbit hole.
with future technology. But regardless, the stuff is exciting. And no, I don't think we should do a family pod. Maybe family pod. I'll get frozen one after the other. Wake up in the future. We'll have to talk about it off the pod, you guys.
Yeah.
But let's thank our sponsors real quick. Shout out mobility professionals and urology professionals. Mobility Pros can help you with all of your durable medical equipment needs, be it wheelchairs or other equipment like standing frames and the like. Similarly, their sister company, Urology Professionals, can help you out with catheter supplies, urological supplies, whatever you may need. They got you covered anywhere in the US of A. So go show them some love if you need some supplies to help you pee. Sean Kelly, the Augmental Mouthpad, a tongue-driven interface that controls your computer, smartphone, tablet via Bluetooth. I've seen that really, really cool technology too. I don't know how I'd feel about having something in my mouth. Um, I'm just real curious how big and bulky it is. Um, and ugh, yeah, I don't know. What you got going there, Bobby? Were you
I'm
able to get the graphic up?
trying to put our banner, but I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the
My
overlay.
plug, my
Some,
plug was more than enough.
but yeah. So
Um, just go check out all of our other episodes where we plug our sponsors.
yeah.
I think they'll forgive us for lacking the banner today. We're operating a little differently since
Well,
Shawn isn't here.
uh,
So give us a little grace.
Yeah, I think thank you so much for everybody in the chat. You kept me on my toes. Very active today. Make sure you hit that like button. Shawn, welcome in. And I think Viv, she just got in here too. So make sure you hit that like button. Yeah, it was a fun topic. Um, when I first, when Tom first put that out there as our topic, I was a little like, but talking about technology is fun, and some of the things that it can do to change our life is pretty amazing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I know we're a little silly at the end, but I really do think that like the positive like tools that we're talking about like could really make a meaningful impact and change in our lives.
Yeah,
Like I'm not talking about becoming a cyborg. Like I'm talking about the stuff that is out there right now today. Well, in 10 years, will we have the episode where Bobby turns into a cyborg? I hope.
that would be cool. All right, everyone. Don't forget T Fizzle on tomorrow at 5.
Yeah, 5 p.m. We're going to be doing some gaming on the Live to Roll channel. It's always a hoot, so you don't want to miss it. And then on Thursday, we have Rolling with the Golden Oldies. April showers. They're talking about bladder issues, bladder management. Um, I don't know. It's a fun name. I liked it. I thought it was a little
No, I
creative.
go to the name that.
It's almost a little risque. I thought
Yeah,
when I first read the title, I'm like, are we gonna get demonetized and like taken down for like have our channel striked or suspended for making a reference to a yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that.
yeah. So check out our Golden Oldie show. All our shows on at 3. Our gaming shows are at 5. So all the ones on Thursday at 3. You can always catch us, and hopefully, and I'm sure he will be, and he's doing great. We got a little update that Shawn just had a little bit of a procedure today, and he's doing good, looking good, and we should have him back, thank God, so I don't have to. Um, you guys were very interactive today, so kept me on my
You
toes.
did it. You did great, Bobby. I was gonna try to run it on OBS and like try to have you call in through Skype and stuff. I was like, nah, we'll leave it in the hands of Bobby. But you did great, dude. So give yourself some credit. You're a tech master. You're psh, we'll get a Neuralink implant in you, and you might be too powerful, Bobby. We got to be careful. But we love and appreciate everybody that stopped by. Thank you so much to the Live Drill family, everyone that participated in the chat. Please, like Bobby said, give a like if you enjoyed the content. If you didn't, that's fine too. Um, if you are not subscribed, we highly encourage you to do so. Um, Hit that little notification bell if you feel like being notified when we do go live. It'll just be a little notification that'll pop up on your phone or your computer. And yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday, same time, same place, 3:30,
Same
right
bat,
here on YouTube.
same bat time. Take care,
All right,
everyone. Live to
live
roll.
to roll.